Go ahead and call the order.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and call this committee meeting of the emergency services to order. Make it official.
First item I got on the agenda is staffing. All the chiefs talk on staffing, but in regards, I guess in particular, I wanted to bring it up in regards to the change that Joe is proposing. What he'd like to do is change basically rescue EMS captain position and 2 staff paramedics, and reclassify those positions as EMS senior paramedics. The staff paramedics would go from pay grade 22 to 24, sorry, to 23, and the EMS captain would go from 24 to 23. It would be revenue neutral. There wouldn't be any pay increases associated with it. I just want to run it by you because I guess long term it could have a small effect on the budget because you technically have 3 people in a pay grade, 2 of them are higher and 1 of them's lower. So, long term, it might be maybe $1,000 a year additional pay increases. It kind of depends on performance evaluations, calls, things like that, what percentages they get. But it does have a long-term potential, small impact on the budget. That's why I want to run it by. Okay. Like I say, this current fiscal year, it would be revenue neutral. There is no increase to their salaries. It's just that long term, it would have a very moderate impact on the rescue salaries budget.
Okay, what are those 3 positions again? As a captain, you have
the EMS captain, that position will be downgraded, and that position is becoming vacant. The gentleman in that position is moving off to be a helicopter medic at the end of this month. So that's why this is timely, because that position becomes vacant. And then the 2 staff paramedics will go up 1 pay grade, and all 3 of them together would share supervisory responsibilities as senior paramedics.
Does some of this money come from the revenue that you generate?
These 3 positions are 100% paid out of revenue recovery.
Okay.
None of these are general fund positions.
Okay. So where does the $1,000 come from?
Well, that's kind of a hypothetical, from any given year, based on what they might get additional performance and COLA increases. And that's probably a little bit of a high number, all honesty, because they were going to get an increase anyhow. They might get a slightly higher percentage increase because 2 of the 3 are at a one pay grade higher. So one of the ones is at a lower pay grade, 2 are the higher pay grade. It might be we'll say there's a couple $1,000 difference between the pay grades, which is correct. We'll say they get a 2% merit and a 1% COLA. 3% of that, say $2,000, is what you're looking at. So maybe a few $100s a year, really.
Yeah. So we know for FY21, we actually did their specific salaries based on the changes in what we predicted to hire new people in that, and it was actually revenue neutral in FY21. There's 0 impact on the budget. FY21.
So what's the advantage and disadvantage of?
So, well, number one, the market for paramedics is pretty tough. It's very difficult to recruit and retain paramedics with this. But we need to have better supervisory coverage 24/7. So we have set these folks up. They'll be on fixed schedules, and they will help us extend ALS and supervisory coverage to 10 o'clock at night every day. So we have better coverage. Eventually we'll have to go 24/7 like that, but for the next while, this will help us fix some of the problems we're having with coverage and supervision.
Not to get off the subject, but your dealings with the insurance people, things like that, being repaid, is going on fairly well?
Yeah, our vendor does a really good job of keeping the percentage collected pretty high.
Is fairly well a good way, or is excellent, or is fairly well? Is that a good way to put it, or or excellent, or good, or
good job?
Good. Okay. Are you looking for us to say fine?
Just if you have any objection to it, I'd plan on authorizing it unless you have any objection to it.
Does this not have to come back before the council as a whole?
It doesn't technically. Under the personnel handbook, I can make adjustments to positions. I have that leeway for the personnel handbook. It's just that I do kind of like to run things either back by the related committee or by the finance committee, one or the other. Like I say, the annual impact to this change it's not going to be thousands. It might be hundreds. It's not going to be thousands. Because you're talking a percentage of an increase up to like a $2,000 range increase. And you're talking every year, like a 1 or 2, a 1% COLA on that and a 2% merit on that. So you're talking potentially 3% off, $2,000 additional every year, roughly. It's not what I call a huge increase.
So these are already paid positions?
Yeah, so we're not asking for new FTEs.
It's not creating
reclassifying.
It's not creating new positions. It's simply reclassifying 2 to a higher category and 1 to a lower category.
Okay.
And this year it's staying revenue neutral. And really, there's no, not an increase associated with it. Like I say, other than long term, it'll have a very minor impact on the rescue budget. Like I say, a few percent off, a couple thousand a year.
And when do you, if we say yay, when do you expect to put this in place?
We'd like to do it as soon as we possibly can, because we have the EMS captain position, which becomes vacant October 31st.
So you have to advertise for that?
Yep. And then the one staff paramedic has been vacant now for about 6 weeks, and it's kind of hurting us, so we'd like to get them swapped and filled pretty quickly.
So these are full-time positions?
Yes.
How's the rotation gonna work on them? I mean, are you gonna work them all straight daylight, or?
No, they're gonna have alternating schedules, so they're covering from 6 a to 10 p. 3 of them do.
Monday through Friday, or 7 days a week?
7 days a week.
Personally, I don't see a problem, I'm still not bringing any new position on board, and it's been paid for through the recovery fund, correct? So it's not costing the town.
Correct.
I don't have a problem with it.
I don't either.
Thank you very much.
Any salary discussion or staffing discussion in the police department or fire comments?
I think with the COVID thing, and I've only got myself and Curtis, full-time people, and Curtis has been dedicated to COVID since the end of February, which has taken him away from his regular position. And I've probably been away from my regular position 50% to 70% of that time also. I think we've seen that COVID has killed the 2 paid positions at the fire department because we're not able to do what we do every day, day in and day out. I think last year's budget, I think I asked for 2, maybe. We cut those 2 out. 2 full-time positions last year.
You come out, council come out.
Think council cut it, or we cut it?
I think either we or the budget.
I think we cut, the budget committee cut, whatever come, I think the budget committee cut whatever cut that. Because we were looking to cut the budget, of different ways, and then COVID came and we had to cut. But I think that, I know that if we hadn't had Curtis in the position he's in, to be able to step up and do that, we would have been in really bad shape for logistical purposes for the COVID drive-through. Because he's done a tremendous job with that, but it's taken him away from his normal duties and taken me away from my normal duties too. So it's put an overtaxing load on both of us during that time. So new budget season coming up. probably gonna ask for those two, if not maybe four, I don't know. Getting to the point that where two people can't do what we're doing, where Curtis is doing the work of probably four people himself right now. How he keeps going, I don't know, I just keep,
Now, when
afraid he's gonna burn out.
when you set new budget season, you mean?
Not the budget amendment.
Not the budget amendment, but when we start working on next year's budget, I'll definitely ask for the two positions that I took out of the budget last year, I'll ask for those, and then contemplating maybe asking up for four.
Of course, I'm probably dreaming, but we're all hoping that by April or something like that, that the situation's gonna be better.
Right.
We usually get, a dozen staffing positions discussed every budget session.
Yeah, I think I've
So you know.
cut, I asked for two last year, and I can't remember, I think I asked for one the year before, maybe we cut it initially straight off the bat. I think COVID's really brought it to light with me about how the volunteer group, you can't depend on the volunteer group to be able to go out and spend days and weeks on a detail like we had with COVID. It's put us behind the eight ball with other things we're supposed to be doing, and we'll have to eventually look at some staffing that's hard work.
They've been staffing the health task force testing stations, and of course they still have, Billy's got fire calls to run, fire station to manage, and Curtis has got inspections, and they're busy.
You had something big this afternoon, didn't you?
We've had, I don't know, we've had four calls today, maybe five calls today.
Yeah.
It's been a busy week this week. It's picking back up. COVID sort of slowed it way down, but now it's getting back to normal. Or better than normal. Joe's much, probably running more.
Our call out, it's been incredible, that's something that's just slamming 3-4 at one time, it's serious stuff.
The people who have COVID, do they call you to come get them?
Yeah, we transported some COVID folks. We just assume at this point that every patient might, so we wear protective equipment on every call. All our providers are N95s if it's a respiratory patient, things like that. So we just assume that our patients are going to be COVID positive and just act appropriately. But what we saw was people didn't go to the ER for a long time because they were scared, and they got sicker and sicker. So now when they're calling us, they're really sick. So yeah, kind of a boomerang effect.
Where's the death rate right now? In your bank account? The last I heard was 8%.
8%?
The number 8.
Oh, in Montgomery County? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yeah.
I don't have that in front of me.
It's like 8 or 10, it's not
It's not a big number.
Good.
All right, we ready for item number 2?
Sure. Hey, the Virginia Retirement System multiplier for emergency responders. Right now, our emergency responders receive a 1.7% retirement rate. They're eligible to receive up to a 1.85% rate. In order to do that, you have to notify the state that you are basically buying up to that higher rate, and you have to fund it. And you have to fund it annually. Our estimate of that rate right now annually, this current year, is $118,772.
Say the number again, please.
$118,772.
And this is for this year?
That would be for a full year. Okay. That wouldn't be for the remainder of the year. Well, for the remainder of the year, we'll say you would pick it up at the
I think 68, not 92.
yeah, I think it's around 69,000 for the remainder of the year.
We say, the scope of calendar year. The fiscal year or calendar year?
The full year, the fiscal year is $118,772.
Okay.
If you were to fund it from, say, November 10th on, you're looking at around 69,000 for the remainder.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't have that exact number in front of me. But, you know, annually going forward, you'd be expected to pay basically the 118,772, roughly. And that number can go up a little bit with payroll.
So how many people, staff members,
It would be all sworn officers and emergency responders. So,
Be my two, all Mark's guys, and then those full-time people. Correct?
yes. So, five on rescue, right, Joe?
Yes,
Five
correct.
full-time, two full-time on fire, so that's seven. How many sworn officers?
61.
61. So you're looking at 68.
Now, are you just throwing this at us right now or seems to me like this is something that the council should make?
It is a council, this is definitely a council discussion item. I'm simply bringing it up here because you're the emergency services committee.
Okay.
You know, do you think it's worthwhile to pursue? And I'll explain to you the way the formula works. I think both of you are VRS retirees, so you understand the system. But basically, when you retire under VRS, typically, full retirement's typically considered 30 years of service at age 55. If the way the formula works is once you retire and you say you're done from basically Virginia employment, you can't work for any other Virginia retirement system localities, at least not full time. You receive your rate of pay average over 3 years. In other words,
So that's 3 years.
yes, the average of your 3 highest years, not your 3 last years, your 3 highest years, whichever 3 they were. The average of your 3 highest years is what they use as your base salary. And they use this multiplier, like I say, right now it's 1.7%. And then they multiply it times the number of years service. So let's say you have a salary of, we'll just kind of do a hypothetical one here. Let's say you retire with an average salary of $60,000 a year for your 3 highest years. You multiply that times the multiplier of 1.7, then you multiply that times 30 years, and that's $30,600. That's with the 1.7% multiplier. Okay?
Now, we're not doing
With a 1.8 multiplier, that number's 33,300. So that's the type of increase you'd see, basically. And again, assuming you made $60,000 at your average of your 3 highest years, and that you had 30 years service. We are an outlier on this side of the state for certain, and maybe in the state in general, that we're the only area in this side of southwestern Virginia that's using a multiplier other than 1.8, correct?
Correct.
You just said we're the only area. Are you saying that
We're the only local government,
we're the only local
the
government?
local government using a 1.7 multiplier for emergency
And
service.
everybody else is 1.8?
All the others are 1.85.
And that even includes communities like Carroll, Hillsville, Galax, Benton, Rocky Mount, Salem, Roanoke, Radford, Blacksburg,
Pulaski.
Pulaski, Pulaski County. Both regional jails are at the 185. We're the only one left that I know of in the region, except for Floyd County. I think Floyd County still is at the 170, but they're really pushing to go to the 185.
Now, am I getting a 1.8? By,
I don't know which.
You're probably getting a 1.7. They've got different plans depending on what time you retired. If you retired prior to January 1st, 2013, you were probably at the 1.7 rate, unless you're an emergency responder.
Okay.
If you retired after that, you're probably at the 1.65 rate.
And state police is at they're at 2.0 multiplier, so is Virginia Tech. Can I give this a quick breakdown?
Sure.
I think just along the lines of what Boss was talking about, I'll give you an example of Captain Weddle, who's been on the job for 30 years. He's getting ready to retire. He's hanging on, but right now for this decision. And I run Doug's numbers, and at $87,000 a year at the 170 multipliers at 36.97, at the 1.85 he's at 4,023 monthly, which is a $326 monthly difference for him over at 25. You would expect him to live 25 years. That's $97,000 in the span of a retirement. So I know $118,000 sounds like a lot of money. But when you think about somebody being on this job, or a fire job, or a rescue job, if they make it 25 or 30 years, they deserve that. The untold trauma that Joe's seen, Billy's seen, my guys have seen, I mean, everything from suicide to homicide to child sexual assault, to how many fatalities have we been to where we've seen children and we still wake up at night and see them. And I know Billy and I've had that conversation.
Yep.
If they've been on a job and made it that far, especially in today's world, I just firmly believe we owe that to them. And it may become political because you're going to have some naysayers. And I'll tell you, I'll stand in front of council and make this statement. You move every one of those men and women to the 185. If you could leave me at the 70 to make it work, you leave me at the 70 because I don't care. But those men and women out there doing the job deserve that, because they're the only ones left in the region that are not.
Valerie has been aware of this,
Yes, she is. That's where the number came from, the 118,772.
and what are their views on it?
She does believe we can afford this with the budget amendment. Of course, obviously, that's council's discretion, and, whether you feel that's appropriate or not. And obviously, like you say, this is gonna have to be part of a larger council discussion, obviously.
This is gonna be on the 29th.
Yes.
I'll tell you what, fellas, this meeting I've been on council now for 11 years. I think this meeting on the 29th is gonna be the biggest meeting I've ever been to. We're talking some money.
Yeah. Department heads, I think we knew that these discussions were coming.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that we worked really hard last year to send a lot of money back. I mean, I know just my department, just our department, we turned back in 500,000 because I knew we were going to have some tough battles. In discussion with Mr. Wingfield, that's something all department heads worked hard to do, is get our, in-coffer revenues to a point where it would help make these decisions.
I mean, what you say here, it makes sense, especially if we are really the only one, with the exception of Floyd around here, just to make it competitive. And you can see somebody that's retired with getting another step is a number, that people gotta pay attention to.
I don't expect you to make a budget decision here, and I think you do need to see this in the bigger context of the budget before you make a real budget decision. But I just kind of want to know if you kind of support it in concept, if assuming council feels that it's appropriate to budget for it, basically.
Well, personally, I'm going to say push it forward. Which we understand to be the full council, and you may just have a couple, do the same, and come these numbers out, that you really have to sell it to them, especially because once they're going to do numbers like per year. I would hope they would look at the big picture too. I mean, we can have somebody come on board here, fire department, or rescue, for say 5 years. I mean, you get somebody young, 21, they're probably not thinking about retirement. When we get old, we start thinking about that. They said, well, I can go next door, you know, and serve, 10 more years and make this much more money. You know, you might lose a rank, but, you know, look at the big picture, you know. The rest of my life, I'm going to be making this amount. So, you know, I'm in favor of having it all up.
It's fine with me. I mean, we are also going to discuss, I'm asking the question here. We're also going to be discussing merit pay and COLA on the 29th.
And I'll tell you, I guess, give you a little bit of a preview. My staff recommendation is going to be that you fund the merit pool first, if you fund employee increases, that you fund the compensation study, basically the increases for public works. Second, that you fund the VRS multiplier increase third. And fourth, if you feel it's appropriate to consider a call, maybe a 1% call. Although I think that's, you know, I can see that maybe will, from talking to the finance committee, I know there's some hesitation with that. But like I say, I guess at least, at the very least, I feel the merit increases are kind of a promise to employees for good job performance, the fact that we have a job performance evaluation system. And the public works increases are based on salary studies that we've done and the fact that we're behind VDOT salaries so much. And we still have fairly major turnover problems with public works. I think Jim's still down around 20 people. And like I say, the emergency services multipliers when I prioritize third.
Randy, did you tell me, last week or so, if we went with all of these, we're talking 600,000 a year?
It's, hang on just a second.
In the next 2 to 3 years, 5 years, how many people do you think will be retired out of your department?
In the next 5, we've got 17 slotted. Yes. We're getting, and that's one of the discussions.
I've got the VRS multiplier number here in another email. The VRS multiplier number from November 10th to the rest of the year is 68,992.
What was that again?
68,992. Okay, now do you want full year numbers, or do you want?
That's what I was looking for.
Okay, full year numbers. For the merit increase, 262. For the public works comp plan changes for a full year, 190,450. The VRS multiplier, as I mentioned, for a full year is 118,772. And if you did a 1% COLA, it would be 131 for a year. I can give you a remainder of your numbers for these if you want.
No, I think that's good. I mean, I'm not sure if we're supposed to get into this, but, I mean, Mark, did you give me, the merit pay is number one in your mind? If council has to make some decisions.
And if we're speaking from a town-wide perspective, I think merit pool is very important to the workforce because it's when you change to a pay-for-performance system, and then you don't fund the pay-for-performance system.
What's the reward for good job performance?
The system loses integrity. So I firmly believe that is vitally important to the entire municipality.
I mean, the way I'm looking at it, the raise for public work should be on everyone's thing. Is that, I
would actually tell you the merit pool.
Is that number one?
Because we do have pay for performance and, you know, we did performance evaluations, we'd like to reward the people that have kind of a good job performing.
Well, I understand that now. So you're gonna put, Public Works, that'll be the next
I
one?
would put that second. And then put the VRS multiplier.
The multiplier
services is third.
And well, COLA is the fourth.
COLA would be the fourth. And, you know, this year, I know, you know, cost of living might not be going up this year considering the way the economy is.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have gotten a little behind in COLA in the past, though. I don't think we've had COLA for.
I mean, I'm not employed, so I don't do, well, one of my things about COLA is, and you guys tell me if I'm right or wrong, I mean, I think a lot of people right now are pleased that they have jobs.
I'd say that's the case.
And I think that, you know, they would understand on the COLA part.
I mean, I think if merit increase is funded, I don't think you'll hear much argument over the COLA, in my opinion. And obviously, multiplier and public works rates are funded, you're not gonna hear anything about the COLA. I think we would feel blessed to be able to get merit increase or VRS from an emergency service standpoint. Public works, I can't sit here and be selfish and argue. If you say, hey, you have a choice, which one do we need to go with? We only have this much money. Honestly, I'm gonna fight for the VRS multiplier because that's for my folks. But public works is in a really tough position. You can't have a 30% turnover rate to continue to function. So that is definitely needed for public works.
If we did the merit, if we did the multiplier increase, how much notice, do we have to give VRS approval?
I think we simply tell them that they took action, and I think it's effective immediately, pretty much as soon as we notify them.
Okay, so it's not up to us to say when.
Yes.
So I mean, we can always say,
I think what we do is we send them a letter basically just saying that we adopted an ordinance in that regard,
gotcha.
and they use that date.
Okay.
But then they send you a bill with it.
Of course.
Yeah, because now currently we're paying 12.3% to VRS. Increase in multiplier would be paying 13.2%.
It'll increase our payments to VRS monthly, basically. So that'll be broke out, I guess, monthly payments over the next 7 months, 8 months.
This is just, I'm just throwing this out, concerning COLA. I don't know, I was thinking maybe just give the personnel maybe a little bit more of a Christmas bonus than we have in the past. I mean, it ain't gonna be that much, but it's just a symbolism.
We get a $50 gift card now, which if you give employees merit increase, they're not gonna have a problem not getting COLA.
Okay,
In my
okay,
opinion.
good.
I just,
All right, that's all it took for me.
I don't think the COLA is the expectation like the merit.
Okay, so,
We ready to move on to item 3?
thank you all for listening to me. I appreciate it.
Just so you know, there's a sheet with you, how to work the VRS formula, there at the sheet. And if you take a look at the large sheet that you see, this has what we have currently in the CARES Act funding for emergency services. This is just how we plan on spending it. I'll put this on the council agenda for Tuesday night too. This is just basically the emergency services portion of that sheet that Val emailed you earlier in the week. I gave you a copy at the council meeting, and Val emailed it to you this week, an updated version. This is just the police, fire, and rescue items from that, to give you an idea of how we're spending it. This all is funded through the CARES Act, so it is not town general funds. This is through the CARES Act federal money that we were getting from the county.
That, you know, and this is a little off, but it was on, I saw the agenda this morning, and it has that the signs that's gonna be, there's one here and one at the rec center.
Yes.
Now, of course, it does not mention the one at the pool, but I know that you're gonna do that through the
With the-
budget.
correct.
And I take it that Terry knows that. I mean, if I didn't know that, if I would just look at it, hey, they're taking care of all these people who care that, and the pool's being left out.
She knows, we felt we couldn't fund that one because we had it in last year's budget prior to March first.
Well, just so she knows, that's all I care about.
Do you have any questions, any objections to how we're spending the money?
Utility trailer, include utility trailer that we haul on this code for the test sites.
You have, cones and tents.
Cones,
and,
tents,
tables.
Water, barricades,
I thought,
supplies. They actually delivered today.
Oh, okay.
They come in today.
It's sort of free money, obviously, you don't want to wait on it, but again, it's CARES Act.
We've borrowed another trailer that we've been using, so we were able to get this one through the CARES Act.
I see the police vehicles have been ordered.
I myself think you're doing some really clever stuff here under the CARES Act myself, you know. Do the bathrooms and the signs and all that, I think these are, well, isn't that?
Pretty determined to spend it all. I've heard the bathrooms, we probably can't have them installed by December 31st, is what they're telling us, but we're gonna have them delivered, and we're just gonna pay for them. We'll pay for the install out of the general fund.
But now, this
There's
CARES Act,
$15,000 for the install, but we'll have the bathrooms delivered for like 30-some thousand probably.
Well, I think it's money well spent.
Again, you have to talk to COVID response, and you have to spend the money between March 1st and December 30th. And it has to be installed, you can't like be pending installation. It's got to be delivered or installed to be eligible.
you know, the way this thing is going, I wouldn't be surprised, if we get some more money.
I wouldn't be that surprised either, in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if they extend that December 30th deadline.
That'd be good for us, wouldn't it?
It can't hurt.
Hmm.
You know, more time to spend it can't hurt. And, yeah, I guess more money, you know, it's coming from the federal government, so it.
Yeah. So, Life Pack 15, March, except for one,
Just one bit.
I mean,
Yeah,
how much that stuff costs?
biomedical stuff is incredibly expensive.
You know, I know I don't need to tell you guys this, but I hear all the time from people in this community and talk about what great jobs that you guys do, you and your teams do, and we, you know, the people in this town appreciate it. And then that comes through us, and it really does, you know. And it's nice to have something good come by every once in a while, you know, and that is one of the good things there is. And if you would tell your people about that, you know, maybe that kind of, you guys are doing a great job, you know.
If there's nothing further on this, we will move down to item,
Emergency services sites.
yeah.
I've got a warrant sheet in front of you that shows town-owned property, just to kind of give you an idea of what we own. And then we've got a presentation.
All right, we're gonna talk a little bit about the history of the fire department. Thank you, Chief. Of course, fire department established in 1911, town council appointed William Beecham as first fire chief, formulation 2 captains, 2 to 3 lieutenants, first fire truck there has Model T, and a Cadillac touring car, and all the equipment on it. Sort of build the history up, and you guys have got a presentation. 1930, town council approved the purchase of American La France pumper, that pumper that Dickie Horn still owns to this day. 1937, council approved the rear of the municipal building service fire station, which was this spot right here. In 1940, we purchased the second town fire engine, 500-gallon a minute Dodge truck that was manufactured Roanoke Welding or Fire Corporation was formed after it. 1942, Montgomery County Board of Supervisors bought 2 engines, fire engines, placed one in Christiansburg and one in Blacksburg. That's helped cover calls outside the town incorporated limits. In 1950, the department moved to the station on Roanoke Street in East Main. 57, Montgomery County replaced the 1942 engine, sent that engine out to Ryan. September of 1977, we moved into the current station at 110 Depot Street. Since that time, the department's fleet has expanded and upgraded. Call numbers, you get these every year in the annual report. 2019, we run 990 calls. 2020, this year we were set to probably go up to about 1,100 calls this year, but COVID slowed everything down for us. Fire department's currently staffed with full-time fire chief, fire marshal, and then a full-time deputy fire marshal, and we still have 41 volunteers. ISO services rating, which we got almost 8 years ago now, is a Class 4. Class 4 is going to be about the best we can ever get without having career staff. Career departments such as Roanoke City are a Class 1 that really decreases fire insurance rates for the locality, but to be a Class 1, you've got to be fully staffed, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and there's a whole lot of accreditation stuff that you got to go through to be able to get to a Class 1. So Class 4 is going to be close. We might get to a Class 3. We weren't that far off from a Class 3 the last time. I think 32 points is all we needed to get a Class 3. We're working on that right now. We're just about due for another 5-year inspection through ISO, which I hope that the shortcomings we had the last time, we reduced that from a 5 to a 4 the last time. And I hope that what we found that we were short on the last inspection, we can get that 4 down to a 3.
Is there a shortage something within the department?
There's records. Yeah, keeping good solid training records and stuff like that, and making sure we're getting the right training hours. And it was stuff that we've been doing. We just didn't have the paperwork to show.
Okay.
And it's very important that you have the paperwork to show that you're doing this training. You know, guys might load up on a truck one night and go out and train, but then they weren't documenting that they were training, that they were doing that training, so you can't get credit for it. So since then, we've implemented Firehouse software. Even when they go out on a regular call, they get driver's training credit for a regular call. On a regular call, it's automatically tabulated and counted during that software. And then the Firehouse software has enabled us to be able to produce a report every time they go out and do training, make sure all the members get the training.
Is Roanoke County, is that full-time or volunteer?
Roanoke County is probably 90% full-time and probably 10% volunteer. Roanoke City is 100% career, and the City of Salem is 100% career. Currently, yes.
Cities have to be paid.
Do that?
Cities?
I don't know if they have to be paid, but there's very few cities you'll ever see not have a paid department. I mean, it's pretty good. That's the current fleet. We talked about fire station number 2 and emergency services stations, what we've been calling it here lately, but fire station number 2, when we started talking about that. In 2000, the town of Christiansburg was donated a piece of property on Quinn Stewart Boulevard by the Hammerstadt family, and that was dedicated for future use as a fire station. That's what that land was donated for.
emergency services station.
Yeah. The original lot size was 58,000 square feet. That was in 2000, so we still hadn't done anything with that lot. It's still sitting there. And you can see where the lot's at. As soon as you turn in at the red light off Pepper's Ferry, it's right behind the movie theater. Here's the movie theater. And now, this section of the lot right here, which I'll show you in the next slide, is where the water pump station is now. 2012, Town Manager Turpenny and Jerry Higgs, Director of the Water Authority, agreed with the addition of a pump station on that property, and that cut the usable size of that lot down from 58,000 square feet down to 38,000 square feet, which tremendously reduced our ability to put the size of station in here that we felt like we needed.
So, the question would be, if that land was donated to be used for a emergency services location, how did they get away with it?
Here or now. I mean, it's the cards we're dealt with now. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, that was before Billy, so I don't know how that happened. But, you know,
Yeah,
powers to be at that time.
I understand. Maybe I should
We had to have a pump station in there, and they had to do the water line upgrade coming from the water authority to be able to supply the amount of water that the town of Christiansburg needs to function.
So I guess I'm saying if they didn't need to get permission from the
Right.
habitat to.
Correct.
Okay, we can,
Don't know how that.
we can drop it if you want to.
Yeah, don't know how that came to be, so I can't really give you an answer on that.
All right, it was just, you know me.
Just playing the cards that I've dealt with, and I learned on.
Mr. Halberstadt passed away recently, by the way. John Halberstadt
Yeah.
passed away 2 weeks ago.
A few weeks ago. So you can see that's blown up a little bit more, you know, now we only have 38,000 square feet, and the water authority has 15,000 square feet.
Okay.
To be able to go in here, you know, the station that we proposed to go over here was gonna be a drive-around station. You come in the back and pull up to the front. Can't do that now because the lot's too little.
But it's still adequate to have a station there, a second station.
You're not gonna be able to put much of a station there. You're gonna be able to put a 2-bay station there. We plan on a 6-bay station there. You're gonna be able to put a 2-bay station, and we'll talk about that, Steve, right here in just a minute.
This type maybe a rescue squad building.
Rescue squad station, rescue squad building would work.
Together, yeah.
A rescue squad building would work perfect there in that lot. This sort of gives you a breakdown of what we thought we needed at that time. You know, we're looking at, we're gonna need at least a 19,000 square foot building to meet our needs, just the fire department. That don't include Joe's stuff. That's just our stuff. So that's sort of what we're looking at. The fire department currently does not have any volunteers that live on the Pepper's Ferry area, so then you've got a staffing issue with putting something on Pepper's Ferry, the same as rescue, unless rescue put paid staff in over on Pepper's Ferry. There's no way for our current volunteer staff that lives in town to respond to that site over there, because now we've got extra traffic lights between here and there, and the fire truck's going to pass them en route, and then it's not safe for them to be able to respond from downtown Christiansburg to go to that station. So we would have to go, if we built a station over there, we're going to have to do a really heavy recruiting thing to try to recruit volunteers that live on the Pepper's Ferry area or in that area. But what would help that project tremendously, anything on Pepper's Ferry, would be putting a connector road in by the park property from Pepper's Ferry into Cambridge Street. That would help it tremendously, because I have people that live in Windmill Hills, then they would be able to respond to the station on Pepper's Ferry.
Now, I'm surprised you called that station number 2, because there's really, you're gonna bring out in a minute here, the part that we bought.
The other piece of property,
Yeah.
correct. I'm giving you history where we were at prior to. You know, and of course I got a bullet right there. You know, the station would need to be staffed with career staff to be efficient, because nobody lives over there until we get that road put through. Right now, the way the lot currently sits over there, I feel like it could be used for at least a single bay or maybe a 2-bay rescue squad substation, with bay areas for ambulances, office space, bunk rooms, and the lounge. The way that lot's currently configured, I think it would make an ideal lot for EMS to have for a second station on Pepper's Ferry.
Yep, based on our heat maps.
Yeah.
Fall dispersion, that actually is a prime area for EMS to have this substation.
Yeah, I think
And it's gonna get bigger too.
yeah, I think it will get better. So in 2016, we purchased the lot on Roanoke Street from, the Akers Brothers, or Harold Akers, bless you, thinking about me, Harold Eames. And of course, you know, the whole negotiation, and I was involved in that negotiation on that property. It was negotiated to be a fire station when we negotiated that property. What got it changed to an emergency services building, that got changed by council, I think, or emergency services building. But the negotiations on that piece of property was for a second fire station. We purchased the property, ended up selling off a portion of the property to D. Griffith's family for a little bit of cushion where they built their picnic shelter at Dudes. We ended up with 2 acres out of the deal, and we purchased a lot for $594,000, and that money came out of our building reserve fund for the other station.
But did we not sell that piece of Dudes?
We sold that piece.
Before we
They
purchased?
bought directly from.
They bought direct from the Eames brothers.
That's all right.
So basically the deeds to the subdivision plat,
Okay.
we bought the 2 acres and
Right.
they bought the remainder.
They bought this thing, 'cause that price was over $600,000 before they bought that piece of property.
Okay.
They paid the same price we did, they per acre.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Broke it down per acre,
Yeah.
and that's what they bought it for.
Okay.
Gives you a little bit better view of the property. Of course, it doesn't show the subdivision, of these property, which falls through right through here on that piece of property. So far, you know, we spent $594,000 on that lot. Money's been spent, planning and engineering section, overhead utilities. We've already paid $48,751.91 to relocate all the overhead utilities that were on that property, put them underground when the Fallen Branch intersection was put in. We've already got conduits in the ground. We spent $13,680 on conduits in the ground to be able to put Opticom preemption coming out of that station on the Roanoke Street to stop the traffic at the traffic light at Fallen Branch. We spent $1,100. There were 2 wells on that property. We had to have those wells abandoned. We spent $1,100 on the wells to have those well sites abandoned so that they couldn't be used anymore. We paid Gay and Neal Engineering $2,493 for engineering services on that property. Just when we re-subdivided it and laid it all out, we paid them to do that.
So you've been slowly making changes and improvements since we bought this.
Correct, yes. Trying to do it so we don't have to go back and dig the road up. Take care of all that. And then, of course, that street is in destination 2022. That station is there in the destination. So what we did is the fire department created a committee of members of all its volunteers, along with Joe had a committee that worked on, well, I think it was you and Dustin maybe, to sit down and come up with what their needs and wants were for the building. My committee traveled to Texas. We sat to a station design conference in Texas to learn the most efficient way and cost-saving tools to be able to design a fire station. We're not engineers, so we don't know. All we know is what we think we need in a station. But we went to this class in Texas. Town Manager Biggs approved that trip when he was here. We went to Texas, sit through this week-long design school, and we met with 9 different architects that design fire stations. We got ideas and stuff from all 9 things. Committees put the project together. Has put into this project and will make the final design easier and in line with the needs of the fire department and community. And when this project got dropped, all our volunteers sort of felt like we've been let down pretty heavy. You know, we spent a lot of time and a lot of hours, you know, trying to plan this station, and it's been put on the back burner, so they're not feeling it right now. Roanoke Street benefits, fire department, we have members that live on Roanoke Street that could respond to that location. Fire station, that location would help the community his ISO rating from a 10 to a 4. And what I mean from a 10 to a 4, currently, right now, everything that's within 5 driving miles from the current fire station is a Class 4. So when you get past Kirby Drive, on the top of Christiansburg Mountain to the Christiansburg town limits, they're outside that 5-mile range, so they go to a Class 10 automatically. So the citizens of Christiansburg that live from Kirby Drive to the top of Christiansburg Mountain are paying insurance rates based on a Class 10 rather than a Class 4.
Would there be a big difference? I mean, I know.
Dollar-wise, I'm not sure, Sam, but I would say it would be $100 or more a year, maybe, or a couple of $100 a year. I know, I can't remember the guy's name that lives down there off of Cumberly, but he called, his insurance rates went up tremendously, and we tried to get his insurance rates down, and we could not because he was outside the 5-mile rule. We did an in-house study in 2016 before we ever bought the property down on Roanoke Street, and we worked with Teresa Carroll with the police department, and she was able to put together our cost statistics on the fire department where the majority of our calls were. And believe it or not, which I would have thought it would have been the opposite, it would have been the same as what Joe's was, it would have been on Pepper's Ferry, but I think I presented those figures to you all in council at the Aquatic Center that night when we were discussing the property on Roanoke Street. Our heaviest call volume was on Roanoke Street for the fire department. It's just the opposite of what Joe's call volume is. The station down on Roanoke Street, if we had that station there, we'll have quicker access to be able to get to Pepper's Ferry because we don't have to negotiate the 3 traffic signals now from Roanoke Street versus however many we've got from down here over there. I think it's 11 or 12 now. So we can get to Pepper's Ferry quicker from Roanoke Street by coming out and hitting the bypass, coming off the bypass, and you got one light at Lowe's, and then you're the light at North Franklin, and you can get to that area quicker. We can get to Blacksburg quicker, we can get to Elliston quicker, and of course we run a ton of calls on 81 on this right 2 blocks from 81.
That's what I've heard this pitch before.
Yeah.
And being easier to get to 81.
Correct.
Think that it's going to get worse.
Yeah.
It's getting worse.
Yeah.
And
come out of Roanoke, that lot on the Eames lot on Roanoke Street. You come out of that lot, you have 1 traffic signal to get to 81, and you'll be able to get there quicker to 81.
Now, if there's a wreck, what is your width? What is your area that you cover on?
105 to the 125.
Okay, that's pretty good road now.
Yeah, been there 2 or 3 times in the past 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
There twice today. And of course, this station, the Roanoke Street station, was listed in Destination 2022. That's sort of I think this is the map that I presented to y'all the night that we purchased the property. It shows a 5-mile buffer right there, and you can see on the 5-mile buffer from the current. This is the current station location. It runs out right here at Kirby Drive. Mm-hmm. So everything right in this area is outside the 5-mile buffer, so they're paying rates based on Class 10. But it covers, from the current station, the rest of the town limits is covered really well. Even out into Roanoke, even out Pepper's Ferry, or Radford Road and Pepper's Ferry is still covered very well all the way to the town limits. So we're within our range there. Map there, it shows it a little better. Roanoke Street, if you look at that map on Roanoke Street, that gets us all the way past the bottom of Christiansburg Mountain, which would be past the rock quarry. That would put everybody in a Class 4 zone if we did Roanoke Street, and then of course expand our coverage area back out a little farther out Pepper's Ferry and a little bit farther out into the Blacksburg's territory toward Midway. Everything in blue everything in blue is our coverage area. That's what we cover. So, Roanoke Street apparatus plan in 2011, our manager Helms was here, and we were trying to decide, what's that station going to cost, and what do you got to have in that station, and what kind of apparatus needs are you going to have. And Of course, you know, our plan was at that time in 2011, we would want an additional second ladder truck for that station, and he looked at me and he said, well, why can't we buy that now? Get ready for it. So we did. We spent $690,000 to buy that second ladder truck. That truck was dedicated to go to the second station on Roanoke Street. Currently still sitting in our building. We use it daily, but in 2011 we were still planning. We were trying to get ahead of the game. You can't build a $9 million fire station and then have to spend $3 or $4 million or $5 million on apparatus to go in it with all the rest of the equipment. So we were trying to get ahead of the game. We're phasing. I call it phasing. We do a lot of phasing to keep from having to lump sum out so much money all at one time.
That figure you just put out, $9 million, is that a recent figure or?
That's about a 4-year-old figure now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
So it's probably 11.
13. OSB board right now, Steve, went from $6.95 a sheet to $32 a sheet right now. So the building materials has gone through the roof because of COVID. 2018, we're still planning. You know, of course, that was during when Mr. Biggs passed away. Was that age 17 or 18?
It was what, 2017?
17, and you know, this number 2 truck right here is a 94 Pierce fire apparatus. We've got those trucks set up on 20-year replacements. So you can see that truck is due replacement, overdue for replacement. But we felt like that truck was still such a good truck, and we weren't having any problems out of it. Instead of buying a new truck and trying to save some money, we refurbished that truck for $18,000. That truck right there is one of the best trucks we have in our fleet right now. Still, so, you know, we refurbed that truck in anticipation of putting it in the second station, not having to buy a $800,000 fire truck.
So to cut you off there, so you said you have 2 trucks that are ready to go down there.
Correct.
What else are you going to need?
Right here.
Okay.
The ladder truck that we just talked about, the engine that we just talked about are all town-owned equipment. We're going to put a Montgomery County-owned piece of equipment down there, an engine, a Montgomery County brush truck, a Montgomery County support vehicle, a Montgomery County UTV brush vehicle and trailer, and the new support vehicle and emergency services trailer that we're getting through the CARES Act money, which will be town-owned, will go down there also. So we'll have 4 pieces of county-owned equipment in that station down there, which will give us really good coverage for that area, and then the 3 pieces of town-owned equipment there. And of course, the county-owned equipment, Steve, goes up on 81. We don't take town equipment up on 81. We take Montgomery County equipment up on 81. That's the difference in that.
Now, if we do this other fire station, who we got to hire?
Who's going to have to hire?
I mean, we're going to have we got to have a fire chief down there or an assistant fire chief? I'm not talking about salaries.
Yeah, you know, I haven't even thought about a salary plan for that thing, because I still think we can do it with volunteers. I'm optimistic. You know, what would probably happen is we'd probably move Fire Marshal Witt down there.
Okay.
And let him be over that station, and that's where his office would be. And then I would stay uptown. Of course, this is a definition thing, and it's just a pet peeve with Billy. This is all it is a pet peeve with Billy. Christiansburg buys Marshall for future EMS stations. Help me, Judge. Okay, EMS station. This is the article that was in the Roanoke Times. This article, and it's pet peeve. It's all it is, a pet peeve with me. This is the article.
How long ago was that article?
That article was right after we bought that piece of property.
When you think
Billy Hanks. This is a pet peeve with Billy Hanks.
Yeah.
We're buying. This was negotiated as a fire station.
Oh, okay.
We put an article in the paper as an EMS station.
Oh, okay.
Okay, EMS is rescue. That's good.
I had nothing to do with it.
And that's he absolutely had nothing to do with it. Definition EMS, emergency medical services, rescue. Emergency services, which that's what Randy calls it, and I call it emergency services, a facility that houses emergency equipment and personnel. It's an emergency services building, not an EMS building. But that's just a tap fee, that's
So
just,
where did EMS,
huh?
where did it come from?
Running
That's
time.
order,
They come from
Oh,
somebody here.
okay, because I thought council, we always had the emergency services building.
Right.
I mean, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
But then I understand why it did
Yeah.
not work out that way. Okay, because I
But that was the article, it was,
Oh.
that's just me digging a little bit here, so,
Hey.
no big deal. So let's go back and talk about Pepper's Ferry area right now. We got the Truman Wilson property for the parks. The lot across the street on Quinn Stewart's not big enough to build a fire station on. It is big enough to build a rescue squad building on. Two-bay station with sleeping quarters and housing and a couple of office spaces and so forth.
But Joe, you have no idea how much that would be.
No concept now, although I know the footprint would work in our model for a substation, it would certainly work, I just don't know. If it's not in our.
If I had to guess, I'd say 3 to 5 million,
Okay.
roughly. They're not cheap.
Yeah.
I mean, Reiner built their station outright. Have you seen the new station in Reiner?
Yes.
It's 19,000 square feet.
Uh-huh.
And that station was 6.8 million, 9 million, something like that, but that was empty. That was bare bones.
Now, will we need one that big?
He won't need it, Joe won't need a 19,000 square foot building, but for me to put that apparatus schedule in right there and have bunk quarters that we don't currently have, training facility or training room in that building, office space in that building, we've already researched that. We've already sent it in to a designer, and they said 19,000 square feet. Talk about the Truman Wilson property a little bit. If we get the connector road through from Cambria Street through to Pepper's Ferry, it would be really neat to have a 3-acre tract of land somewhere on that Truman Wilson property around their maintenance shed, dedicated for a fire station at some point. That would give Joe a station across the street and give us a fire station on Pepper's Ferry somewhere down the road. Now, how do you do
The
that?
first thing you want to do is one that we've already
I
got.
think we need to do the one on Roanoke Street.
That's number one.
Yeah, I think we need to do that one just because we have members that can respond to that
Yeah.
station and we don't have to
And
start.
you've done all the legwork already.
Absolutely. It would be nice to have a piece of that land right there, 3 acres somewhere. But, you know, I don't want to take away from the out parcels that we're trying to sell to help recoup the money on that property. I don't think we should do that. If we have a 3-acre tract tucked up in there on the right-hand side, right in here somewhere, a 3-acre tract right here at the dog park, right here next to this maintenance building, right in here somewhere, and you can come straight out on the road right here, catch a red light, go toward the Arsenal, come back to town, go to Blacksburg, go to 81, or come back across and go to Windmill Hills once that road's put in.
That's not the most recent park layout.
Right. This is an old layout.
That's the old, the original concept drawing.
Yeah.
So of course, you know, right now, we're looking at a 4-field concept.
Softball field's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the first concept that we had. And of course, that's the 3 out parcels that are there. Truman Wilson property, fire station on this property would require 3 to 5 acres for adequate construction. The pros are the station will serve the Pepper's Ferry area. The station can be easily beneficial with access from Pepper's Ferry to Cambria Street, access to 460 bypass 81 Blacksburg as well as Virginia Tech. And the cons to that is we don't have nobody over there right now. Until we get that connector road put through, we don't have anybody that lives in that area.
But Joe, if we could put your people over there, that would,
You could stay at that station just
We're talking about
the Quinn Stewart property.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
You could stay.
thinking, houses burn everywhere, I realize that.
Yeah.
But I think what Joe has, heart attacks and this and that, stuff like that would maybe.
That would definitely be more beneficial for him, that piece of property there.
Yeah, and an EMS station, much smaller footprint, much less cost.
Yeah. They don't have to have, rooms for decontamination, for turnout gear and fire hose and all that stuff. 2019, that sort of shows you what the alarms were in that area and in the town of Christiansburg with all the little dots. Talk about our current station right now, built in 1976, 44 years old. It's non-ADA compliant, wasn't required in 1976. We have zero space to expand that building right there. We're landlocked now. We have no additional storage. The elevator in the station, the utility elevator, is not a full-size elevator. And we do not have sleeping quarters, and we do not have separate facilities for female members. Fire department took on their first female member Tuesday night. So we're going to have to make some accommodations for females in that building now, which is not female friendly at all. And then, of course, it's not MS4 compliant to the EPA. So what did COVID do to emergency services? It limited our abilities of full-time personnel we had, hindered us from doing our daily duties, and restricted our resources. Emergency services, where do we stand? Lack of volunteers. Nobody's applying to volunteer. The people that are volunteer, it's too time consuming. The demands for training are great. EMS, I see, and Joe might correct me on this, is something I threw in there yesterday. Weekend coverage is hard for EMS right now, and daytime coverage is absolutely killing us from the fire department. Everybody works a job for a living. It's hard. We used to be fortunate. We used to have 5, 6, 7 people that worked for the town of Christiansburg that volunteered on the fire department, and the town was always gracious enough to let the firemen leave from their jobs to go fight fire. We don't have that now. I've only got 2 employees at the town of Christiansburg right now, the radio technician, Force Rep, and Parks and Rec, that can respond to calls during the day. And then it's myself and Curtis, and Chief Yop and the other retirees that are there. And then we're fortunate that we've screened our applicants here lately, and we're getting some full-time career firefighters on the department that work shift work. They don't work 11 days a month. Their 4-hour daylight coverage is getting a little bit better than what it was. So do we need to do a needs assessment to tell us what we already know? No, I don't think so. We did all the groundwork when we bought the Roanoke Street lot, and we know what has to be done to Quinn Stewart if we want to put an EMS lot on it over there. Ranford Fire and EMS just done a study. It cost them $50,000 to tell them what I told them in 2002 when I worked up there. I did a needs assessment in 2002 for the city of Ranford for the fire department, and their study showed exactly. They paid $50,000 to tell them exactly what I told them in 2002. But they did it anyway. So we look at the current building we're in right now. If we want to stay a one-station fire department, should we abandon the current building and need for a larger building to accommodate 60 people, 60 firemen, or do we stay in the building and build a second station? I'm in favor of staying in the building and building a second station. That gives us better coverage. And I guess I want to see, as Words Council, want to see fire and EMS in the next 10 years. Where do we want to be in 10 years? Do we want to combine services? Do we want to leave it separate the way it is? I think it's something that somebody will have to address down the road. Probably not in Billy's time, probably not in Joe's time, but somebody will need to address that down the road. Words Council will want fire and EMS to be. We've been very fortunate to be able to cover calls the way we have been covering calls. With the benefits of revenue recovery, it's helped EMS tremendously when we went to revenue recovery. Because prior to revenue recovery, we just had no help during the day for EMS during the day. We're starting to see that in some of the county departments out in the county. Shawsville Rescue Squad is struggling tremendously during the day. They don't have any help during the day. Joe's teams are running to Shawsville, I don't know, 30 calls a month maybe? It's a lot. We're starting to see, that there's just nobody that can nobody wants to volunteer anymore. Everybody wants to get paid to do it. Everybody's too busy. All these young kids are out here working 2 jobs to survive right now. Nobody wants to do it. So I think, somewhere down the road, we need to have a discussion whether it's the next destination, 2028 or 2030 or whatever it is. We need to have a discussion about what's council's vision for fire and EMS down the road. But as far as the EMS sites go, or the emergency services sites go right now, I think we should really take a strong look at the Roanoke Street site and come up with a plan. know, we've sit on Quinn Stewart Boulevard over there for 20 years and we haven't done anything with it. And, now that lot shrank, in size, and Joe's, you know, make a good EMS substation over there. This is not suitable now for a fire department, for a fire station to be over there. To put a fire truck on that lot over there, it's gonna have to be a back-end station. You're gonna have to back in off the street. I think EMS could still come in and turn and then back up into the building possibly. But there's no way to put a drive-around station or a drive-through station on that piece of property unless you did it parallel to the road and come in on the end of the bays and come out of the end of the bay and then put your office space and bunk space in front.
Yeah.
Several designs that you can do with that.
What I would like to see, you know, if I had my wish list, the property in Quinn Stewart just kind of be earmarked for a future EMS station. But the present need right now is for village folks and fire down on Roanoke Street. So EMS, we got to work on our staffing levels first before we worry about creating a second station. But down the road, we're going to need something like that. So if we can kind of earmark that property and keep it earmarked for an EMS substation, that would be perfect.
I think so. I really do. We had, when we were talking about the Roanoke Street property, I had a design engineer come in, and we rode over to the Quinn Stewart lot, and his thought process was then that would make a great EMS substation. And
Our heat map show that's where we need to have one.
biggest problems we got right now downtown is we have no more space. With the new look, you know, we've got the ladder truck, the old ladder truck that's going to go away now because we don't have nowhere to put it. Was originally intended to be a reserve ladder truck in that second station. We have nowhere to put that truck now. Now we have to try to sell a truck that's over 30 years old, which I've talked to several used fire truck brokers. Nobody's interested in it because the truck's over 30 years old. If we get $25,000 out of that truck, it's going to surprise me. And the truck's worth more than $25,000 to me. And I haven't discussed it with Randy yet. And the truck really needs to go away because anytime something breaks on it now, it has to be custom made. But the truck's just a solid truck. Instead of giving the thing away for somebody else to tear up, I'd like to see it go to the museum. Some of the museum down in Roanoke, because it was the third. There were 3 trucks, the last 3 trucks that were built in the Grumman plant in Benton. This was number 3, before they shut that Grumman ladder truck plant down in Roanoke. You know, if you come to the dedication of the new ladder truck on Sunday, you'll see we've got 2 trailers sitting out on the side of the building. We got 2 trucks sitting on the side of the building. The station's full. You're not going to see that because everything's going to be in the parking lot. But the station's full. We have no more storage room. We don't have facilities for women there. We don't have showers for women there. We've got bathrooms. I don't have bunk quarters. I can't sleep anybody at that fire station. And I think if I had bunk quarters or someplace to sleep people at the fire station, I could get more people to spend the night there. And they wouldn't be running back and forth to their house. But I think we've got some tremendous needs that we need to, I think we need to sit down as a group and come up with a plan. I can put the stuff out there all day long, but I think, you know, without council's direction, I think it's hard to sit there and plan on something like that.
I'm not sure if you've done this to council before.
I haven't.
Yeah, okay. Are you planning on doing that?
If you and Councilman Bishop would like that to happen, I'd be glad to do that. I can't do it this Tuesday night, but I can do it sometime.
Yeah.
And that's what I was working, when I was supposed to be in Pennsylvania today, but when y'all called this meeting, and then the site thing was on there, I felt like I needed to be here, you know, to have some discussion on it, and you know, I'm passionate about that site. It took me 4 years to get that site bought. It didn't happen overnight. I worked on getting that site bought on Roanoke Street for 4 years, and finally got it, and finally got them to agree on the thing. I mean, when I first became the fire chief, Captain Dickerson and myself talked about that site down there for probably 15 years. How nice it would be to have that for a second station. And I drove down by there, and Harold Eanes' tractor trailer was sitting in that lot one day, and I put him a business card in his door handle that tractor trailer and said, if you're ever interested in selling this lot, give me a call. Well, we worked negotiations for 4 years to get that lot, and before they'd ever agree to get it, but, we sealed the deal over lunch at Big Al's down there one day, and that was pretty cool.
Would that be all right with you, Sam, if they?
I mean, I don't know if we want to do a regular council meeting or a work session.
I was actually thinking maybe have this discussion in the spring budget. You know, I didn't expect it to be with the budget amendment.
Right.
But I kind of wanted to let you know what's coming with the budget amendment. What my idea is to maybe put this in front of you with the.
Fire truck replacements, fire truck replacement's another big issue too. You know, we set these things up on 20-year replacement cycles, and, you know, they're $800 to $1 million for an engine now. You know, we just paid $1.5 million for the new ladder truck, but to replace an engine, we're looking between $800 and $1 million to replace an engine equipped. We put, how much have we been putting annually? It varies. I know we upped it when we purchased the ladder truck. We upped the money, put more money in there than we had. But we have to, you know, when we start planning, I've got that 94 that we refurbed that's overdue for replacement, but we refurbed it. We think it's a good truck and still there. But I got a 2000 model right now that is the biggest POS that I've ever had in my life. I spent $47,000 on it in 6 years, and just got a text message before I come in the door here that I got $6,000 more of work to do on it next week. And we're just constantly, that thing is nickel and diming us to death. And I think I'm gonna have a discussion with Randy here in the very near future about lease purchase. We've never done a lease purchase on a piece of fire apparatus before, but you know, I can't keep sticking.
Common.
It is for really underfunded fire departments. They'll do a lease purchase plan. City of Radford lease purchases everything they buy.
Okay.
But by the time the thing is paid for, it's wore out. It's time to get a new one.
Yeah.
So you're constantly making a payment on a truck. But I think to be able to replace this 2000 model, I think with the ATL money that we get every year through aid to locality through the Department of Fire programs, I think we could make a payment on a truck on a 10-year plan, you know, and then have 10 years without making a payment on it. But if council wanted to fund, you know, $850,000 to buy a truck, we could buy a truck and spend $850,000 for 1 month fund.
You know, you might have to, when you do this thing next spring, you might have to do a sort of priority.
Right.
You know, on Roanoke Street, you know, and go 1, 2, 3 a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely.
To give you full disclosure, when Billy budgeted this year, he had money in for building design.
Yeah, I had $800,000 in building design money.
I did cut it out. Thinking that you do the building design the year before you build it, basically.
Right.
It's kind of what I thought. I didn't think we'd be ready to build it next year.
Yeah,
So.
Councilman Showalter was pushing me for a dollar figure. Well, all I can give you is a ballpark. I can't give you based on what everybody else is paying at current levels, you know. But Councilman Showalter just give me a number. I need a number. I can give you an estimate. No, I want a number. So.
I mean, like you said, $9 million, you thought, and then you said now it's probably going to be, you know,
it'd probably 11, 12, 13 million, which is a lot of money. I mean, that's a lot of money to do something with.
Well, that's very interesting. I really appreciate it.
And you know, do we want to bond that station? We would bond that station. I would imagine it would be through a bond, maybe. And would you want to lump it with another project? Joe's substation on Pepper's Ferry or on Queen Stewart, or lump it all in with the park and do it all one time. I don't know. That's why y'all make the big bucks.
Well, you know, let me.
You gotta keep my paycheck, Captain.
Yeah, I'm a retired school teacher, you know, and I can remember when I had a tennis team, and I would go to the bookkeeper and I'd say, you know, I need $50 to buy some new cans of tennis balls. And she would put me through the ringer to get that $50. So when I hear these figures today, it's just overwhelming.
Scary.
You know, even though my wife was a CPA, it's still, you know. And like this meeting I told you on the 29th here, we had some outstanding things here, you know. And the park, we've been talking about that for years. You know, it's getting to be a time, you know, you gotta get on or off, you know. But we're talking big money. You know, your fire station, I mean, we've been talking about that for years. They get on that. We talked about the multiplier here and the merit pay, and, you know, it's, I mean, like the federal government, like Biden last night, he said, well, we'll put money here, we'll spend money here, $3 trillion here, but you just can't do that in real life, you know?
What
And I
would
just
you
want to
do?
show you what I'm thinking.
Sure, absolutely. And what would you do if you had to come up with $2.6 million a year to pay all the fire?
Really, I know that day's coming.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
To staff that fire department, you'd have to have minimum of 48 to staff that fire department. That gives you a 2-truck company.
All you guys plan on being there 29th, right?
I can't be here. I'm in school all week next week. I leave Sunday to go to school.
Okay. Well, maybe if you have somebody maybe represent your department, you know, I think that'd be good. Am I overruling this thing?
I could send somebody, but I don't think nobody's gonna know this stuff right here. I mean, you're the first to see this. I haven't even showed this to my guys yet because.
I don't know if this is budget amendment discussion. Budget next year.
Budget for next year, I think, would be the discussion, and then I think, you know, if you'd like to do this presentation during that budget time, I'm more than willing to do that and even work with Joe to put some more facts and figures in it, you know, as far as his stuff for the Quinn, to justify the Quinn Stewart project.
Well, I mean, here is my thinking here, if we approve the park this fall, and then you come next spring, you say, I want another $10 million.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure the council will tell you whether to hell or not.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we do it in a nice way.
Sure.
You know, I mean, so we have to make some decisions here on what.
It's hard. It's really hard. It's a hard balancing act, and I think council and I think the finance committee, I think all the department heads have done a tremendous job over the years to be able to find that balancing act to make that budget work and not have a tax increase.
Yeah, that's important, right there.
Yeah.
We do carry a very, very low percentage of debt compared to most other counties.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you one more story, and I'll shut up, okay? I told somebody recently, I said, I'm working as hard as I can to push the park. I think it's a good, and I have a whole list of things I think. And that person said to me, yeah. And then at the same time, I'm going to retire next year, okay? And she says, yeah, you push that park through, the $20 million for the town, and then you stick the town, and this town has to pay for it for the next 20 years, you know? And so I'm thinking about some of these things right now, you know? I'm going to say, hey, yeah, this is a great idea, let's do it. And then I jump ship.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes you have to think, you just can't think. I mean, that's where this is a tough thing, I think.
Sure, it is. It absolutely is. Tough balance.
All right, if nothing else, we can move on to item 5.
Other items, anything else you want to bring up?
Nothing, I'm good.
Good.
I'm almost on overload.
No.
Well, I think if you come back later on with your other presentation, if there's one spring or something like that, when it's fresh. All right, no other items? This committee meeting is adjourned.